I was I was traveling along and I thought this looked like a mighty fine place to ditch my rig. This is Landon, the hobo, virgin, 50, male, white, lives with mother. That is my Indian name. Ayo, it's a day, yo. Daylight come and me one go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally my banana. Daylight come and me one go home. Hey, it's a day, it's a day, it's a day, it's a day, yo. Daylight come and me one go home. Day is a day, yo. Daylight come and me one go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally my banana. I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying, I'm just moving my lips. Those of you who guess correctly win 1,000 million bonus points, or Landon units, in the Landon Game of Life. You can redeem those points when I develop a video game commensurate with this promise. I'm working on it in my own mind. It's made up of squares and rectangles and pictures of Himalayan people with their dogs. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally. Just pulling that out of my head. It's genius, sheer genius. I mean, what isn't sheer genius? I mean, really. It's like, is there genius that's not so sheer? Sheer genius. One of those words that people use it all the time is like sheer genius. It's like the dark of night. In fairness, though, not all genius is obvious. You know, some of my genius is sheer genius. You're like, wow, this guy's obviously so smart. And in other parts, it's like, his intelligence kind of creeps up on you, doesn't it? Whew. Pretty soon your heart starts pitter-pattering. You're like, I think I'm in the presence of the Son of Man. Well, maybe I just made that up in my own mind. But why shouldn't someone feel like they're in the presence of the Son when they're around you? You ever spoke your heart? You ever at least accidentally stumbled into some powerful way of communicating to another human being? That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? That's what druids practice. It's like stumbling their way, fumbling their way. And then for me, as a druid, I'm terrified when it happens. And I'm opening my lips and someone's standing there and they're affected. So I protect people from me. It's like, you know, I can start writing a book in thin air. You know, it's like I can just pull it out of my head. It's like Mopsy and Dropsy. You know, it's like, whoo. No, not all the time, but it's like I can, well, not sorry, but, and hasn't everyone done that? It has no practical benefit to me, just to be clear, which usually is what people assign to competence. It's like if you do something amazing, it has no practical benefit. It's like you just got a couple cardboard boxes, taped them together, and said it's a spaceship. You know, it's like it's amazing, but nobody really cares. You know, but so some of my genius isn't so sheer, but I think it's neat to see that if words can come out of your mouth that stir your own heart, and if they can, they could probably stir somebody else's too. And then you're rowing your own canoe, as my people used to say when I made them up just now. My people, yeah, I just made them up. They're amazing. Hey, my friends, come here. Come show these people that I have friends. Oh, hi, Landon. Hi, Vanessa. I am one of his many beautiful female friends who don't want to have sex with him and love having reciprocal interactions of a highly intellectual level. Hello, people on YouTube. I loved, I'm happy now, by the way. The sun is out. I loved Mopsy and Dropsy. In that film, remember that film with Mopsy and Dropsy, my friends, Mopsy and Dropsy? Remember I told you about them just now. Just nod your head as though that were true, even though it's not. And I'll lead you into a delusional state of psychosis. I actually fear sometimes when I'm listening to TV, more in retrospect, because you'll hardly ever get it while you're sitting there staring at it, because that's like understanding how you're being raped while your legs are open and in the stirrups and you're downing Quaaludes like they're Tic Tacs. But there are vaguely disturbing things about TV. Like, you don't have to believe that, but and maybe you don't want to hear that, but I think there's a lot of witchcraft to television. And I should stand here and say, oh, definitely it's all witchcraft, and I have, but like, honestly, like, it's hard to say, hey, that's all witchcraft when it's not so obvious to people and it's not meant to be. And you might say, well, that's kind of just a delusion. How do you prove that TV is witchcraft? But if it's working, you don't notice it and nobody wants to. And so I can't really make a drop-down perfect argument, and I think that I'll just tack that up to the way things should be. I'm really glad that I can't. It would be awful if I'd be like, yeah, TV sucks, I can prove it to you, there. I mean, it doesn't seem possible, does it? And yet at the same time, we, not necessarily, but are potentially acknowledging that TV could be such a powerfully persuasive force that it could be wrong, and we wouldn't notice it and wouldn't want to. And that's how you do witchcraft a little bit, and by imagining how unimaginably dark things that speak to millions and millions of people's brains could really be. And kind of like the Stockholm Syndrome, you're like, at that point, you're really glad that it is the way it is. And that at least it's a stable part of human life. When you think about the human brain, like, you wouldn't want to make it any more unstable than it is. It doesn't need any unfamiliar instabilities after a lifetime of TV watching, alcohol, work, elections, and chronic masturbation. Speaking for myself, but as I clearly do a lot of things for myself, including pleasing myself. I think if I switch to farm animals, it'll be a lot easier. That way, if my mom sees my porn, she won't understand what it is. She'll just be like, oh, Landon's developed an interest in animal husbandry. It's like, it's like, she'll never figure it out. My son, the farmer. When I'm with a woman, I want to think of her as the plow, and me as the field. I want her to till my field. I want to feel my suffering beneath her fingers, to massage it gently into a completely engorged state, and then swallow it whole. I want her to take my suffering and move her lips all over it and kiss it gently. Because it's like a hard-boiled egg. I wonder if I could put an egg up my ass and cook it. Then I'd open a restaurant and have ass-cooked eggs. Yahoo! Get me some of them ass-cooked eggs. My favorite. You know, rumor has it, the owner sticks them up his ass and cooks them in there. No, that'd be silly. No. And one day old Zeke sees a video on YouTube of me cooking an egg up my ass. He's like, my God, I just lost my chitlins. I've been eating that man's eggs for years. Well, tomorrow is eggs for breakfast. Once you're used to something, even if someone shows you that it's bad, you'll still do it. It's called getting someone hooked, right? You might know a narcissist and you get to know them, and then you get to realize that they're really not very truthful about a lot of things. And what do you know? You're just used to it at that point. It's like you don't have enough of a reason to do anything. You've consented to certain levels of suspension of disbelief. It's kind of the way rogues and stuff are admitted into the confidence of various characters in theater and television, right? Believe me, believe me, believe me. And then it's like, you're raped. I'm going to steal something from you. And I've met people who are like grifters like that, and you know, their life is their work, just like mine in a way, or just like some people. It's like they get up each day and every relationship which they cultivate is a relationship that could help them get what they need. And it's like, okay, you can sort of get along that, and they'll say anything to get what they want. And if you agree to it, then it's okay. It's not a lie anymore because you believe them. And you know, things change since they said that, so you could hardly hold them to it. People can do violence to you, and you could think, well, maybe I deserved it. You know, every time women do violence to me, I'm pretty sure most of them think I deserve it. Or they don't think it's violence to begin with, right? And the victim will be in some doubt, because a lot of violence, part of the violence, or a critical part, is to force you to believe that you should endure it. You've earned it. You've provoked it. The stone I hit when I walked through the forest, that particular stone just needed me to hit it so I could complete that chord, that sound, and they'll hurt someone because that's the thing that gets that force and that makes that point the way that they need to, and they feel it in their bodies and their minds that that's what they need to do. Because it takes a lot of force, it takes a lot of determination to hurt somebody, and or it's very habitual, and then if you get a chance to see the nature of patterns as it applies to, say, female violence, in that you can tell when someone has a pattern of violence. So you're less likely to think it's your fault when you know that this person has a pattern of violence, and there's a pattern of misjudgment combined with aggression. Aggression in itself isn't wrong. So passive aggression is aggression that's used to do something wrong in the most difficult way for the victim to protest. It's the worst kind of violence, and it's the hardest to detect, but it's the most obvious to the person that is subjected to it. And it's the hardest to prosecute. And it's prevalent in certain professions where people have access to vulnerable people. The welfare system, transit, the police, real estate, teaching, private schools, religion, spirituality, yoga retreats, roommates, all kinds of things. Anything, anywhere someone goes, man or woman, you may or may not be prone to passive aggression. And the key is to, hopefully have a way or have some help in thinking better of yourself. Not that it's your fault, but the better you can feel about yourself, and then notice the patterns. I've had people say to me, "Hey, Landon, you must have a target on your back for everything that happens to you." Not a nice thought. It's kind of bitter medicine, isn't it? But you can let the psychopaths tell you, because I've met psychopaths who call me fresh meat or juicy fruit. And they don't even mean like, oh, hey, I'm going to hurt you. But it is preface an illegitimate claim upon my flesh and blood. And my time. You see stories sometimes in the 80s or 90s about young boys getting tongue-tied talking to girls. But the only girls that I get tongue-tied with, I find, were sexual predators or children of alcoholics. Depending on which way they go, because children of dysfunctional homes go in some very different ways. And it's enough of a burden, it's enough of an occupation surviving a dysfunctional home, that it should be considered an occupation in itself. And that to supplant that occupation, though all mankind, if known correctly, might wish to distinguish themselves at that occupation by birth, in any level they've ever had some scruples about what this world can curse you with, at any level, whatever way you want to define curse, is even just the overall impression that certain forces, industrial and natural, can have upon you when they are not mitigated in the proper way. Nature has an order. Things work and live according to an order. Today, I honored the order of the sun. And that's how. So we have an inner sense of order. And when things are out of order, you have to protect yourself from that. Right? And now that can be part of creation, but that doesn't mean that destruction is the quintessential creative act. So there's a lot of room there for people, to suffer. And the way people come together, it allows lots of people to suffer for long periods of time. Whereas if we weren't grouped together the same way, we wouldn't really suffer that much, because man is not meant to suffer. He's meant to discover why he's suffering and stop it. But the more people are grouped together, the more their time is put into a certain order that places enough industrial demands upon your flesh and blood, and interpolates them into even the development of your flesh and blood, and apes a lot of the standards and signs of ancient human history as to the mother tongue of the creative and positive and long-living nature of your flesh and blood, in all of its sounds and languages of the heavens and the earth. You understand? Again, we don't have to say the whole world is evil. I'm looking at it at a clinical level of mass, whatever. Going from the personal to the planetary. Just a nice way of saying social, cultural, economic. And so you don't have the kinds of time that you need to accomplish the kinds of fulfillment of suffering that we might require. Suffering weren't bad in itself, but that we can learn from it. We have medicine, you'd say, because of suffering. Why do we still have a world that needs antidepressants if we have suffering? If you can be depressed, you can be happy. If you can be depressed, you have a hunger for happiness that won't be happy until certain things are satisfied. And you have to find out what they are, and you need time for that. And that time is going to be particularly important, is because nothing takes more time than healing family illnesses, families that become very involved in their occupations, but in a sense are not fulfilling their primary occupation, which is to survive each other, in so much as they are also surviving a world that needs to be, wants to be, or grooms your tacit consent to be overburdened with the claims that it presumes to have and need to have, though life itself, or God itself, upon your flesh and blood and your time. So every time someone or something takes my time, I take that very seriously. Oh, here we are. Sun is out. I've got a place in the sun, so I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, today has really been a craft for anyone walking out here. Walk around, have some fun, warm up, and then find some place, if the sun comes out, where you can enjoy yourself in some private cynosure of the earth. The river has calmed down, if I may say. It's been nice. Couldn't really cross. I have crossed this river during the summer, but this is no thanks. Couldn't do it. I'd want like 3 huge men on either side and a couple huge staffs, and maybe I would do it. It's like, with a wetsuit. I'm not even sure where I would cross around here. It's got to be like up to your chest at least in some of these sections. Yikes. That's getting carried away entirely. But I've seen fishermen wade in here and there. I guess there's fish. I bet you there was a time when this river was teeming with fish, but you won't see that. I've heard things, historical things about the oceans here and the rivers just being filled with salmon. Must be quite something. Maybe those days will come back again. It's beginning to look a lot like. Let's see, what's a good word for it? It's beginning to look a lot like typhoid. Everywhere I go. Imagine a doctor who sings his diagnosis. It's like, so how's it doing, doc? Give it to us. Well, it's like this. It's beginning to look a lot like typhoid. Everywhere I go. You won't be liking this news. It may be its abuse. You are doomed. You are evil. You are the water, the woman of water, the Eve L. The Angel. The anger of water. It's weird because on can mean death, as in Christian, or Antichrist, or man, and it can be mother. And you're like, nah. I'm like, nah. No way. Anne Hathaway. Adam man. Right? A D man is a dumb man. Dumb man. Demon, come and play with me now, oh my demon. It's like, give it to us, Doc. What's really going on? Well, you've got a demon. It's eating your love, it's a demon. Eating your flesh and blood, it's a demon. And I don't know if you are ever going to survive this thing that is stuck up your thing. I've been playing some cards. Things getting real hard to think I'm gonna make more clams off of your demon. Stories I could tell about the deadly nature of estrogen and the medical system. It's weird, like, doctors are so good at keeping us alive, right? I mean, don't take anything away from them, but the medical system really deals in a lot of estrogen, really. It's in all medications. There's in a lot of them. It's petroleum based, a lot of them, and there's a lot of estrogen in it, which is like the ultimate renewable resource of the earth. You know, your cars are basically running on estrogen, and right, estrogen. It's a creative energy, the ultimate creative energy. You know. And we have stories like Darth Vader, who's basically a black mother. Even his head is like a dress. It's like a pyramid of a black mother. Right? And he just like strangles men to death. Is that what women want to do? Right? They choke their Adam's apple on men. Yeah, Horus and Apollo are all men. And what do they represent? Death. The death of man. Man has created death. Man is a word for death. You're like, oh man. It's like you went to noun, and now you're going to man. Hey. Hi. It's, I haven't seen those. Wolfhound. Yeah. Like Danish wolfhound or something? Yeah. The, Hound of the Baskervilles. Hi. I wanna sleep at the... Why? Okay, doctor, tell us, what's wrong with our village? Well, I gotta tell you, it's not looking good. None of your men can get wood. Your women look like men, and your men can't get an erection to save their life in the Navy. Oh. Ouch. Yeah, a doctor that delivers his diagnosis by music kind of helps you ease into it. It's like, huh. And your people are damned to all kinds of plagues. Like, and your mom is bobbing her head going, it's got quite a little ring to it. She's bobbing her head. She's a music teacher and it's like, I think I've got to write that down. Let's sing it in Sunday school. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. Hi-ho, the Mariel. Oh. Hey, love your dog.
Thanks.
Hello. Nice dog, wolfhound, Danish wolfhound. Oh, I'll try not to. The wolf and the hound, the wolf and the hound, the wolf. That's a nice looking lady. She looks smart. He's banging her. Lucky him. They probably even have jobs. Wish I had a job. Wish I could prove to a woman that what I did was practical. I can't even prove to myself. Oh well, keep going. It is the age of talking to yourself, isn't it? Somebody said that. I think I did. It's like, well, pass it around. It's the age of talking to yourself. It's like, oh, I feel so much better. Hey, I already do that. I'm cool. It's the thing to do. Some people curl up when stressed. Some animals curl up in a ball. Some freeze and hope that no one can see them. Some turn different colors like a chameleon. Others fly, bark, run, burrow into a hole, slither away. Other animals just keep talking to themselves. It's all going to be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. They're not going to eat me. They're not going to eat me. It'll be okay. Now, what I've discovered is that, unfortunately, that doesn't always work. You know, I like it myself. I mean, 90% of the time, it's going to be okay. But sometimes you have to do something. And no one's going to like it. Now, if the government can spend trillions of dollars and trillions of dollars of slush funds killing and hurting and maybeing and lying to people all over the world, I figure 1% of your life could be putting down some pretty badass boundaries from time to time. And I find that an essential part of my witchcraft. But today I haven't had to do it. I hate to do it. I don't like it. It bothers me for days. I get anxious. It's just like, you never know what people are going to do when you become aggressive. But it's like, I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it. And that sort of keeps me from doing it. But sometimes people really ask for it. They're just ass wipes. They're just walking around, just fucking with people. And they don't really know why. You know, and the women are involved. It's like, you're just like, oh, I don't want to pay attention to this. Wow. They're like nematodes in here. Wow, that's cool. This maybe little tadpoles? I think they are, maybe. Oh, that's cool. The sun is out, but I'm not in it. So I'm going to cross the bridge and get some sun. That's the next job. Ouch. This time of day my knee is a little sensitive, but it's actually doing better than it was yesterday. So I should probably call my mom.